Hey, Foxy listeners, welcome to episode 174. On today's show, I talk with the immensely talented Amy Scruggs. Now, you might know her from the country music industry, which she spent more than 15 years in. She's opened for many greats, including Clint Black and Trace Adkins, just to name a few. She also includes more than 20 years as a sales team coaching, and she's also a best-selling author for her book, Lights, Camera, Action. Now, she has over 20 years experience as a media executive, TV host, recording artist, public speaker, spokesperson, and sales professional. If there's anybody you need to learn from, Amy's the one. We're going to talk today about inspirations to not give up on your dreams, some fun tips for self-awareness and how to be on camera. If you want a good laugh, head over to the YouTube channel. You can literally watch my face as I realize everything I've been doing is wrong. And we also have a lot of good laughs. So let's have some fun.
I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode.
Foxy listeners, I am so excited for today. I have an amazing guest who is as high energy, if not higher than me. So just buckle up, get your notepads out. Amy, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I have been truly looking forward to this. Anytime that we can empower other entrepreneurs, especially other women, but anybody listening, if there's things we can take away and learn from each other today, that's what this is about. And thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about your background, because it ranges from, singer, songwriter. There's so much that's, sort of ingrained in that, working with veterans, TV host, media. So tell us all of the things.
The key topic and the keyword for that would be survival, right? Learning how to shift and learning how to survive. And I see the different skills and passions and, what something could be a hobby to somebody else. I add into my career and add into my business. And so it's been years of the tools coming in and saying, well, that still fits. Well, that still fits. And it evolved. And at the same time, I'm a mother. My oldest is 31. I've got 4 kids that I've raised, 2 more stepkids with my husband. Everybody's grown. So with that, you will learn to shift and adapt. So what I'm about to share is just really the evolution of that taking place. And I'll make this part really brief, but I did start in business when I was 29 years old in wholesale mortgage. And I was in Southern California, Los Angeles area, out there hustling. And I had a woman who believed in me. She said, I'm going to take a chance on you, because I knew nothing about that industry or about sales at all. And she took a chance on me. And I was so excited to succeed for her as a thank you that I succeeded. I put so much in because I didn't want to take advantage or take for granted what she had done for me. And so 6 months later, I was the #1 rep in the company and out there hustling and doing it, and learned very quickly that effective communication, how I present myself out there in sales in the field, because we had a flip phone then, and I literally had a calculator taped to my steering wheel. This is how you young folks listening right now, this is how we had to do it. When I say back in the day, I age myself, but that's really what I was doing, returning phone calls in every parking lot and effectively communicating and building those networking relationships. But the industry took a drastic turn in 2007. We hit a major recession and the mortgage and real estate industry disappeared on me. And I had mouths to feed. Back up to beginning of life, music was always my passion. At 3 years old, I started playing piano by ear and singing and taking classical piano and classical voice. I sang in the choirs. In my 20s and early 30s, I was in the cover bands all over Southern California. So music was always there and always a big factor. Well, now my industry has taken a shift. So I took both of those things and combined them and said, how can I go and take these skills that I learned in business, take these skills I learned in communication and go ask for that business as a recording artist, as a musician, and it worked. It's amazing what can happen when we ask for the business. That's a big factor. And I went out and asked for the business, and 6 months later, I was on a national stage opening for Clint Black in Camp Verde, Arizona on the 4th of July. And I knew that that was going to launch those next building platforms. And that's what happened. I went on to tour with 4 kids in tow around the country. I became the spokesperson for the American veterans because, again, that passion for singing the national anthem, for working with our veterans, it elevated, it drew attention, and it allowed me to say, hey, how can we partner together? How can we make this a fit? How can we put together a plan? And so now I spent the next 3 years performing at military and veteran events, plus the big shows I was doing, opening for some of the biggest names in country music. And then life happens again. And in 2011, our bass player died suddenly, and I lost my home. And it devastated my children and I. We were just, it was a big stumbling block. And again, the shift, and say, okay, how can I take this? How can I continue to move forward and rebuild? Because staying stuck is never an option. Moving forward always has to be. So created an next business plan, and it was to go back into sales as a consultant, as a business development manager. And I made the move to San Diego and said, I'm going to start over. And I still performed on request, but now shifted back over to the business world. And I knew if I put the same passion and heart, that was hard. I was opening for a sold out crowd on a Thursday, and on a Monday, I was in a cubicle. Those were not easy decisions to make.
Well, and I think that's what people, people who are sort of in the corporate world sort of see entrepreneurs as this weird, why would you do that? Like, why would you continuously torture yourself? Meanwhile, we're going, no, it's okay. Like,
okay.
You kind of fall down, you get in the mud, you get up, and you're like, okay, here we go.
Right. And I learned it's okay to weave in and out, because sometimes we have to go in and retool. And I needed to go in and retool again so that I could come back out again. And I think there's this constant ebb and flow. And 5 years later, I was asked to host a national TV show. And that was able to grow and develop into working with professionals and realizing that there was a need for media coaching and presenting your best self and messaging and communications. And then during the pandemic, I had the great opportunity to record again in Nashville and release a new music project. So it was this constant evolution of shifting, not saying no to opportunity, and combining both that kind of corporate mindset and the corporate careers blended with the entrepreneurism that led me to where I sit today to have this conversation with you.
Well, and I think this is so important for people to hear, because oftentimes, entrepreneurs will try something, say they start a business or whatever, they're doing it because they're passionate. They feel like they're the expert in that field, and it fails. And so they feel like they sort of have to give that part of them up.
Right.
But I love that in your story, you just kind of kept that going. You built upon it, and
sometimes
you sort of
it has to sit on the shelf for a little bit.
Right.
That needs to marinate. Sometimes you put things into marinate, and sometimes you put them in the microwave, right? So sometimes the business just had to sit and marinate while I got more ingredients to put into it.
So as you were going through all of this, I think, from an outsider perspective, people might have looked at that and went, how did you continuously keep that inspiration to keep going? What tools did you use, or what tips can you use if somebody's out there going, yeah, okay, I hear you, but I'm in the mud right now and I'm not quite too sure how to get out of this.
Well, first, having mouths to feed is always a great motivator. there's no, well, let's just sit this one out. There's no sitting this one out. But within myself, take the kids aside, within myself, I am not afraid of failing. I'm more afraid of regret. So I don't want to look back and go, what if during that hard time I had actually tried? What if I had tried? What if that might have been the time that I could have gotten out of the mud? And so I never wanted to look back and wonder if I kept myself in the mud. Now, if I'm still in the mud and I tried, okay, that just meant that that's where I'm supposed to sit right now. But if I didn't try, I would have definitely taken personal responsibility for that. So I'm continually putting myself out there. Even when I'm sitting in the mud, there's more satisfaction.
Yeah. And I think it's, that's healthy for people to hear, right? Because sometimes people see the outside of it and go, well, I don't have that. I mean, this is it. This is the only talent I have to fall back on. Like, I got one thing, I feel like.
We all have so many things. And when we tap into them and realize, well, what is that thing maybe that I do when I'm volunteering or doing outreach? Or what is that thing that helps me efficiently run my home or my family? That might be something that could be a useful value for somebody else in their business. we all have these amazing marketable skills, but sometimes we just get that narrow-minded that it needs to fit in those boxes that you see on a resume form. You fill out a form and it checks what industry. I hate that when there's the box checks of what industry I'm in. I'm like, there is no box for me. I need to just create, and I always check other.
I just scroll all the way down. I don't even bother reading them. I'm
put
just
yourself in the other box. And don't always go off what's on the menu. And it's amazing what we can find out about ourselves.
So let's shift a little bit, because let's talk more to the people who are like, okay, I know I've got this. I feel like I'm in my person. I know where my expertise are. I know how to do it, but I'm having a really tough time getting out there. We hear that all the time. Be all in, find your key demographic, show up, and then but people are kind of going, okay, but how?
What does that actually look like?
Yeah.
How do I? First thing is the prioritization. Prioritization is the antidote to procrastination. So anything that we can prioritize every day, and it might be as something as simple as just engaging on your social media, reaching out to contacts that you've had for years that maybe haven't heard from you in a while, just to say hi. It might just be some friendly reach outs to say, hey, I'm doing this. Do you know anyone that can help me? And is there any way that I can be of service to you? Every day it's the ask. We should be asking for help in our business every day. If you don't ask, you can't get help. And my top mentor, David Meltzer, teaches this every day. If you see his social media feed every day, it's the ask. I ask, how can I be of service and a blessing to you? And asking people, do you know someone that can help me? I'm trying to accomplish A, B, or C. So where are the asks? Where are my priorities? What can I do today? And the most important thing about being in business every day is staying in business. Because if you do it every day, it will succeed. It might be 2 months, 2 years, 20 years. It will succeed. Staying stuck is never an option.
I love that. And I think it's important. It's one of, just speaking for myself, it's one of my hardest things is asking for help. And usually when I'm like, when I'm feeling really stuck, I know that that's the universe going, we're going to make you ask for help. You're going to have to do this.
You have to ask for help. Stuck is beautiful too. When you are saying, okay, it's time to receive. It's time to do a look at this. Where's the clutter in here? What needs to disappear? Do I need to create more space? Because we also can't grow and succeed if we filled so much stuff up that there's no room for it. The universe is like, no, there's no room. I'm going to move on to the next person that created space. Creating space, maybe decluttering some of your administrative or your activities that can be automated. Creating space, maybe getting up an hour earlier or staying an hour later in your own business to say, where can I find that time for even my own self-care, meditation, focusing, organizing my files, anything that I can do now. If an email comes in and I let somebody know, hey, I'm going to get that resource to you. If I can do it right now, it checks it off my box. It doesn't become an activity later that turns into a longer list of to-do items. Anything I can do right now gets done right now. Prioritizing what are the activities I get paid for? What are the activities that I don't get paid for? And making sure that those are placed properly within the day. And at the end of the day, you go, hey, I think I did a really great job today. And I may not see the fruit of it, but we know when we plant seeds that all of a sudden you're going to see harvesting happen when you least expect it.
Well, and I think that's such an important tip for people is realizing, actually doing, those calendars where you are writing what it is you're doing every moment of the day, and then looking and seeing, are you getting stuck in those tasks that aren't really making you money, but you're like, gosh, I'm so busy all day. But then you look at your bank account and you're like, this isn't
Not
computing.
so
much. Yeah. How can I be so busy and making this amount of money?
Right. I had to say, this is for the women out there. And I know this is so silly, but the simple task of finally getting the groceries, I realized it was for me to drive over there when I could be maybe taking on another consultation, working with a client. I am finally paying that extra for the delivery. And it pains me, but I realize the value of how much more I'm able to be effective in my business by taking away something personal that was becoming a chore. That way, when I do have personal time, well, then I can go hit the driving range with my husband and I'm not worried about buying the groceries. So I'm finding out, where is my time best suited? Where is my highest value at? And how I can handle all of those tasks in the day.
I love that. And I think you have to find those moments. It's funny because I actually stopped doing the delivery and going to the grocery store. Now I'm that crazy person who talks to herself in the grocery store because I have my AirPod in as I'm walking around and I will see stuff and it'll spark an idea in me. And then so I'm like just constantly talking in a voice memo going, oh, I've got this idea and I've got that idea because I realized that that was just the moment where everybody left me alone. Nobody was
Yes.
texting me. The family wasn't bothering me. They were just like, whatever, she'll kind of be back in an hour. So I realized that, I mean, now my grocery trips are getting longer and longer.
But
So I'm
that's
taking
brilliant
more
for
time,
you.
but
You figured out that that worked for you. And I think that is brilliant. I wish that I had that outcome when I went to the store. I go to the store and that is absolutely every time the moment that everyone calls and emails me and needs something right that moment. So I realize I'm not doing this anymore. For you, it's you've realized that that is your productive space. You're able
yeah.
to maximize your time at the store to get that break and also tap into your business creativity. And I think that's fabulous. Everybody can find that thing that works for them to create that space.
Now I will say that I did go the other day and I was like, okay, I need to get Ziploc bags. And I came back with no Ziploc bags, but a lot of really great ideas, but I'll have to go back for the Ziploc bags. There's good and bad in everything, right?
Okay, it's okay.
So let's talk a little bit about, sort of self-awareness and some fun tips, because there might
Yes.
be some people going, okay, like I know I got to do this camera thing. We hear about reels and stories and stuff like that, but how do I kind of show up and still, you know, kind of be professional, but also be myself, like get myself out
Yes.
there without freaking people out.
Yes, I love these questions. First of all, being on camera is not just for those of you willing to put yourself in the reels and the stories and social media. I guarantee everyone who's engaging with this podcast right now is going to be in another virtual meeting upcoming. Hands down, guarantee it. There's no way to avoid this anymore. We are all looking into the camera. So, with that, an important tip is to actually look into the camera. We see so many people looking down at the monitor, not realizing where to be looking. And what we want to do is create the best in person feel that we possibly can. When I'm looking in that camera, I want you to feel like I'm sitting here with you, that we're together. And if I'm looking down or away or I'm slouched over, I'm not creating that. And then opportunities are missed. I've seen incredible professionals miss opportunities just by not presenting themselves in a more natural way on that camera in a virtual meeting, let alone picking up that cell phone and putting in their reels and their stories. I watched a great professional that I know very well and is a really funny, articulate, dynamic person. And this person put up a reel and they were just stoic. And I'm like, that's not who you are at all. I was sad. So we have to get familiar with ourselves. It starts with that self-awareness. Because if I don't know myself and how I'm representing, and we're going to talk about the resting face, because it does matter. Knowing what your face is presenting, the rest of your mannerisms are going to follow. The best thing you can start doing is getting familiar with it. And how do we do that? A great exercise is to actually start watching yourself in the mirror when you're taking phone calls and you're making phone calls. Any call. I don't care if it's the dog groomer, your husband, your wife, the mailman, your mother, your most important business call. What you want to start noticing is every range of emotion from every subject matter and what happens to your face. And start watching how you represent. You're going to go, I didn't know that I scowled. I didn't know that my face dropped. I didn't know I did that. When you become familiar with your face, guess what happens when you're staring in the camera for a virtual meeting? You know what your face is saying.
Right.
And our active listening face is just as important as our speaking face.
Well, and it's so true because my husband will say to me all the time if we're out at events together, he'll like lean in every now and then, he'll whisper and he'll be like, your face is talking. And then I'm like, oh God, right? Because especially if somebody's talking about something and he's like, then I'm just like, I'm sorry, and it's usually not like it's not a joyous thing. If somebody's saying something and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, he's like, it's just like nobody ever wonders what you are thinking. But I don't think of that on when I'm on camera and
It's
I'm
the
doing
same
it,
thing.
I'm not as conscious of it.
Well, think about the last Zoom you were on where there were multiple, you got all the little tiles,
Yeah.
multiple people. You see the faces.
Yeah.
And everybody doesn't realize that we're all looking at each other. And there might be opportunity in those meetings. There might be people you really want to meet. You might want to be someone that they want to reach out and say, hey, I want to know more about you. If we're not presenting that engaging face. And it also helps if someone's the one speaking and presenting something, they really need that positive feedback from your face. If it's an in-person meeting and I'm a speaker on the stage, I'm looking at all those faces out there.
Yeah.
The problem is we sit inside our eyes looking out and we just assume, well, if I'm not looking in the mirror, my face doesn't exist. Nobody can see it, but that's not true. We can all see it. And it's so important that we're aware of what our face is doing at all times. And if you can master that, any fear of the camera, any fear of public speaking, of standing out in a virtual meeting, I'm telling you, it will be near gone and you will notice the difference in how you represent yourself.
So, is there anything else like besides when you're on phone calls and stuff like that for, looking in the mirror? I think that's a great idea. And I should probably do that when I'm talking,
Yes.
especially to my husband.
Yes.
Because I'm sure there's some very interesting facials.
We're changing marriages right here with this advice. I'm just saying, this is what's going to happen.
Because I remember too, like years ago, a coach like always saying to me, like, just constantly think of smiling, right? And I remember at first being like, what? Like just how stupid that would feel when you pick up the phone to say hello, but like make sure you smile before you do that.
Yes.
But it really does make a
Taking that
difference.
deep breath. It does make a difference. If I'm doing a radio interview or a phone interview of some kind, I stand up so that my energy is even more, because then I have to have more come from my voice versus on camera. I can show you with my body language and leaning in and my facial expressions. But on the phone, I actually stand up and I've got that energy.
I love that. And I think that's a great tip. Something so simple, right? As just
Yes.
standing up
Stand up.
and sort of keeping, because it's true. When you're sitting down, you could kind of be more relaxed. But if you're
Mhm.
trying to talk to like a potential client or something, if
Yes.
you have that energy, I find people match it. It's like sort of like when you're talking to someone on the phone and they're whispering and you tend to whisper and then they're like, why are you whispering? I was like, I don't know. Right? You just
I
tend
don't
to do it.
know.
But I think it would be the same thing for this, right? If your energy is up, then other people sort of adapt to that.
Completely. You can be the person that sets the tone in every room you're in, whether it's on the phone, on the computer, or in person. You really can. And it's amazing when you gain that control. It's actually really fun. It's really fun. People will start noticing, wow, there's something different about you. I've had clients give me that feedback that they're out and about with their families or networking events or business events going, something's different. And it was literally just applying some of these tools and that self-awareness and how they're presenting themselves that changed. Them as a person didn't change. Their message didn't change. Their business didn't change. How they're representing. It's really powerful.
So talk to us a little bit about some of the stuff that you have go on. So let's do some shameless plugs here. Talk about everything you've got going.
Oh, it's so painful. I just had a wonderful recent appearance on the Dr. Phil show. So it's actually airing September 29th. So then after that, it'll be available on the website and YouTube and everything else. But it was really fun to be brought in as an entrepreneur on the subject of the silent quitting and work ethic. And the importance of work ethic, that we've got a younger generation right now that is, some of them are missing it and they're kind of revolting against it. And we don't want that. What conversation are we going to have with them 10 years from now to say, you're missing your own future opportunities? This isn't about who you work for. So definitely want to check that out. It was a privilege to be chosen to be a part of that show. And I've got that one airing. My music release started in January of 2022. I released the first single, What If It All Goes Right? What I love about this song is that with a title, what if it all goes right, you can't worry about it. I can't say, oh, I wonder if this song is going to work, because no, what if it goes right? That's the whole purpose of the song and every word in it. And what I loved is that I put it out there without any worry and without an outcome in mind. If one person was blessed, I did it right. If a million people are blessed, I did it right. And I was so thankful to see that it actually charted worldwide, had some great success in the UK and in Canada. In the US here, it went to number 63 on the Music Row charts, and the New York Times picked it up for their 2022 summer playlist. And that was just, wow. I went, how did that happen? I don't even know how it got there, but thank you. If you're listening, whoever did that, thank you so much. What a blessing. It's incredible to see what takes place when we take the handcuffs off of ourselves and when we take the worry out of what we're putting out there. And my book, Lights, Camera, Action, Media Coaching for Professionals, is just a tool that I've continued to be able to use to enhance my coaching with professionals. If you can't get private coaching, the book is there. It's available wherever bookstores are, wherever books are sold in bookstores. And it's just been a really huge privilege to have these projects come to life in the last 2 years, along with the coaching. What's ahead? Oh, I don't even worry about it. I am curious. Every day I go, I'm curious. What's about to happen today? Thankful for the work that I have. I never use the word overwhelmed because overwhelmed means we have too much, right? I'm
Yeah.
full. I'm prioritizing. I'm blessed. I'm thankful. And I'm continuing to create space so that other opportunities can come in.
So what type of people, you were talking about like your coaching and stuff like that. And I know there's some of my listeners out there who are just like feeling the attachment to you and
Yeah.
just going, there's just something about this woman. So talk to us about who it is that you love to work with, who it is that lights you up, and then how people figure out if working with you is the right thing to do.
I love working with individuals that are ready to do the work, that are coachable. If you're set in your ways and nope, I'm not going to do it, not going to be on camera, not going to change my resting face, then this isn't a fit at this time. But if you're ready to say, yeah, I want to take who I am and make it better. I want to craft my message so that I'm making an impact. Any professional or individual that has put so much into their business, their nonprofit, their mission, whatever that is, let's craft the message that suits you. Let's put you out there in a bigger way. Let's create opportunity for you to grow in your communications, because at the end of the day, it's not your business that's all going to thrive. It's also going to be your personal life, because these skills weave into everything that we do. So I work with professionals that are of all industries. I mean, all industries. And it's been really fun because then I'm learning something too. I learn something from every one of my clients. And if personal one-on-one is too much, I do group coaching. So, all right, you and your team want to get together. We do a workshop for a couple hours on Zoom. Awesome. I love that too. So there's ways to work together in a way that fits you, your business, your group, your team, any of it. And it's really been just life-changing work. Honestly, love every minute of it.
So if you could give one tip today to people who are listening, what is sort of either your mantra or something that you always like to remind people when they ask you for your advice or your opinion on something? What's kind of your go-to?
Staying stuck is never an option. Stuck in our mindset of who we think we are, how we represent ourselves, what we think is going to happen up ahead, life is going to keep changing. Let's start creating that conversation with it and take the limits off. I really advise anyone, and especially our young adults coming up, take those limits off, take the what if off, and let's watch and see what happens.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I think, there's so much in this for people. We're going to have all of the links to where you can find Amy, where you can, check out all of her social media, stalk her a little bit more, find all of the books, all of the things, and work with her. It's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's such an honor to be with you. Thank you for this opportunity today.
For more information on Amy and how you can connect with her, visit our website at foxtalksbusiness.com. Click on blogs and you'll get all of the information for this episode, how you can connect with her, follow her on social media, and all of that fun stuff. So no matter what you're doing today, whether you are taking Amy's advice and standing in the mirror while you talk to somebody, or whether you're just changing your perspective, make sure that you take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?